morning to everyone, and thank you for taking the time to be here today. My name is Greta Rivero, and I'm the Director of Grants and Program Development for the Greater Washington Hispanic Chamber of Commerce Foundation. We are a chamber that was founded in 1976 and is membership driven. What we do is we support economic development for the Washington, D.C. metropolitan region by facilitating the success of Latino and other minority-owned businesses and communities. And how we do that is we provide networking, advocacy, education, and access to capital. I'm supported by the Department of Housing and Community Development in the District of Columbia, as well as the SBA Association and Capital One, among other partners. I would also like to thank all of you for joining today's workshop series on this particular day, because I know that, it's a difficult time and we're dealing with a lot of things, which is why we developed this whole workshop series. And today's title is, Learning the Tools and Methods, right in front of me. I also want to let you know that this workshop is being recorded. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to our workshop leader, Greg Payne, President and Principal Consultant to Emerging Market Enterprises, LLC. Greg, if you don't mind, go ahead and take it away, my friend.
Yeah, Greta, thanks so much. And, I noticed one item came up on the chat. Somebody says they can barely hear us and says their phone volume is as high as possible. So I just for sake of logistics, if you're still having trouble hearing me, give a shout through chat, and Greta's going to be kind enough to monitor the chat and let us know if there's anything that you can't hear or can't see. I'm really thrilled to be here with you all for this very brief hour. We've got a lot to cover in an hour. We're going to try to make the best use of it. My name is Greg Payne. As Greta mentioned, I'm the President and Principal Consultant at Emerging Market Enterprises. I'll share more about what that organization is in a moment. But more importantly, what are we talking about today? Why are we here? We're talking about market research and evaluation, tools, tips, and tricks. Market research and evaluation is a small piece of what I do for a lot of clients and a lot of partners, and I've got a long experience of doing this in a number of different industries, in a number of different sectors and geographies as well. And the purpose of today's workshop is to demystify, right? Make things as easy as possible for really any entrepreneur, any business owner to get started in this process. What we're going to talk about today is not absolutely everything, but it's going to give you the tools to get started and get started in under an hour. So that's my promise to you. And you're right, Greta, we do have homework. I'll get to the homework later, but don't worry about that yet. The important thing is that this is going to be a workshop that's full of information. And I know there's workshops where you can sit and you can kind of look at your phone for a while and, take a call, and you may not miss something. You'll miss something if you take a call, if you look at your phone. And that's just my invitation to you to be as present as possible and engage. And as Greta said, throw us questions in the chat or in the Q&A. Greta will give me a holler if there's any urgent question. We may leave other questions until the end, and I want to leave plenty of time for us to address questions throughout or at the end. What you're going to get today is, and I say this sincerely and very openly, these are the secrets. These are the secrets to market research and evaluation. There's magicians out there. Let's just make a comparison. Magicians, they have their secrets to tricks, and there's sort of a code to never share the tricks. I'm sharing the tricks here. So there's other consultants out there who may be a little upset with me for giving sort of all of the nuances that sort of reveal how things are done. But I'm very passionate about doing this because I believe that it's important for everyone to have the tools to get started in evaluating a new product, a new service, or evaluating how to pivot in challenging times, which is obviously for many reasons exactly what we're in the middle of. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So get ready, be as focused as you possibly can, try to eliminate as many distractions as you can, have a notebook and pen out if you can, but we'll also send the slides afterwards because these slides will be important for you to get the homework done, which again, you'll see in a moment. So let's get started. So just real quick summary. As Greta mentioned, this is day 1 of a 2-day workshop. The second day is next Tuesday, and Greta, I'm sure, will share all of the links you need to sign up for those for that workshop. Attending today is good. Attending both days is excellent. You will get much more out of this workshop if you attend both days. We're going to be scratching the surface, if you will, on day 1, and then on day 2, we're going to be talking about how to make a lot of that practical. A lot of the research you do practical. Overall, our objective here is to help you start to build one of the most critical tool sets when testing a new business idea, and that's market research and evaluation. Everything that I'm about to share, once again, I believe that it can be done within an hour, and also there is no subscriptions you need. You don't need to buy reports. You don't need to pay for a consultant necessarily to get this initial set of work done. And the focus is on helping individuals with for-profit businesses or business ideas targeted at consumers and targeted at other businesses as customers. So that means we're not going to necessarily be talking about techniques to help nonprofits get started, although I do work with a lot of nonprofits and have a lot of experience in that area. And we're also not going to be talking about enterprises to sell products or services to the government. Obviously, in the DC area, the government is a very big customer, and you can create a very profitable business providing products or services to the government. But government, federal and state and local government can be kind of nuanced. And while some of the lessons we're about to learn here can be applied, our focus will not be that. So what this workshop is not, I like clarifying that this is not an MBA course, so I hope everybody's breathing a sigh of relief. I believe in practicality, at least for this workshop, and I want to make this something that literally the minute after you get off this workshop, you can start the process of doing this market research instead of having to sort of feel like you have to do more learning just to understand how to get started. So it's not an MBA course. And once again, we're focused on for-profit models, not nonprofit, not focused necessarily on targeting the government with this market research. And most importantly, this workshop is not the end of the journey. This is the start. These are the kinds of tools that should be with you for the long process of getting a new product or service launched in the market and scaling that and making that profitable. So one last note on why market research and evaluation is so important. This is a recent study back in November of 2019 on the top 20 reasons why startups fail. So CB Insights talked with 101 startups and looked at the top 20 reasons. And the top reason is there was no market need. Now, that can affect anyone. That can impact any business, any organization. If the market changes too quickly and you can't catch up with it, well, you're just sort of in a bad situation and you might fail. You also just might not be doing the right work to understand your market on the early end. And so when you finally launch, you find that all that work you did to develop your product or service is for naught. And so I can't emphasize enough how important all of the tools that we're about to learn here are in addressing the top reason why startups and also businesses that are developing a new business idea, why those fail. And that's because all of a sudden, for some reason, there's no market need. And if, in case you're curious about the top 5, I was curious about the top 5. You can go to the link that will be in the slides to learn about the top 20. It's very insightful. But out of the top 5, we're at least directly addressing with the skills and tools that we're going to learn today. We're at the very least addressing directly 3 of those top 5 areas. I would argue that we're even addressing number 2 there, ran out of cash, the most the best source of cash is sales, and sales come from having good product market fit. So if you run out of cash, there's a chance that you're just not doing a good job of marketing and targeting your product or service. So all of the tools that we're learning today, frankly, address most of the top 5 reasons why startups fail. So let me take a drink of water here. So, and I am going fast, and that's once again because we've got a lot to cover. So day 1 and day 2. Today is day 1, day 2 is next Tuesday. What we'll be going through today is we're going to get into a brief set of introductions, go through some quick definitions. I'm going to frame everything with the big picture of how we should be thinking about market research and evaluation. And then we're going to dive right into it. The 3 basic components of market research and evaluation. Understanding what your business is, identifying the customer and market size, and framing the competition. We'll have some time for Q&A at the end. And again, we'll address any urgent questions throughout. And we'll also talk about your assignment. Now, I'm going to say this a few times throughout this session, but let me start here. Your assignment will be very important. I want to give you some tools now. I want you to practice those tools over the weekend in no more than 1 hour. I want everyone to time themselves. 1 hour, no more. And if you turn in your assignment, however much you get complete, in 1 hour, it doesn't have to be perfect. If you turn it in by Monday at 11:59 p.m., so essentially midnight, the day before the workshop, we will choose one random person out of everyone who submits to get 3 free hours of consulting or coaching with me. And so that's something that I'm happy to provide as a sign of how much I appreciate everyone engaging in this process that I think is so important. So we'll talk more about those details in a moment, but keep in mind, once again, focus on all of this great information because there's an assignment that could get you 3 free hours of support from me. I like that. So day 2, which is next Tuesday, we're going to look back on day 1. We're going to talk about the winner of our special drawing. We're going to discuss the assignment, and then we're going to go beyond. So today we're doing kind of research that we can do from our desktop, from our computer, and then we're going to talk about what we do to take that out into the real world, into the field, talking to customers. All right. So first, a quick bit about me. It's good for you to know who's speaking to you now. So once again, I'm the founder and president at Emerging Market Enterprises. Our focus at EME is supporting startups, small businesses, and nonprofits globally. So we work in the US and abroad that have potential for measurable positive impact in society. I often get asked the question, well, emerging markets, you must just be focused in certain countries abroad and not in the US. Our philosophy, our very, very firm philosophy at Emerging Market Enterprises is that at the pace at which markets are changing, the pace at which society is changing, really every market should be seen as an emerging market. In other words, the faster you move, the more intent you as an entrepreneur or a business owner see sort of those cracks and opportunities in a new market, that puts you far ahead of the game. So the way we support our clients and our partners is we do strategy and planning, we do market evaluation and customer discovery, and we also do leadership coaching. There's everybody, if we were in a room right now and I was able to look everyone in the eye, I would see some heads nodding here. The fact that, an entrepreneur journey, starting a business, scaling a business is as much a personal internal journey as it is a journey of how to get the right product market fit. So we believe very firmly that there's an important component that needs to go along with that important market research. And that is understanding how the person is doing, understanding how the person is developing as a leader and as the right leader for their startup or business. So just real quick, my background, and again, this is to share about me, so you know who I am, you know about my background, you know about the experience I bring to this conversation. I've worked in every sector, private sector, nonprofit, and government. I've worked in almost, I don't want to say every industry, there are so many industries out there, but I've worked in health and wellness, social services, consumer products, food and beverage, agribusiness, tech, clean tech, I should say clean energy technology, and I've also supported the government in helping them use taxpayer dollars better with regards to how they spend on defense. I worked in the US, and I've also worked in, and this is a brief pause to see if everyone on the phone can sort of, or on Zoom, can guess which countries there are. Obviously, those other countries at the bottom, several of you on the line have a very strong connection with those countries. Perhaps that's where you're from or where your family's from. I had absolutely the most phenomenal experiences living and working and studying in Bolivia and Peru and Colombia, and have been very important parts of my background. Okay, some quick definitions. Let's get some definitions out of the way. When you think market research, what comes to mind? I want to share the official definition, actually from one of our wonderful partners here, the Small Business Administration. This is their definition. Market research is the process of collecting and analyzing data or information on a product or service. The results serve as an input to identify which products or services are in demand in the market, how big the market is for those products or services, and who is buying them. It will also tell you who the current competitors are in that market. And this next bullet is probably the more important bullet on the screen. Therefore, market research helps to identify your target market, set realistic expectations about that market, and consequently helps you reduce business risk. So, target market, set expectations for yourself about that market. So understand range, and we're going to talk about range in a little while, and reduce business risk. All right. So you're gonna hear me reference this, probably a few times throughout this conversation. And one other definition that I want to get out of the way, because the term market and industry can sometimes blur together, and it's understandable. They're very similar, or I should say there's overlap. They're not similar, there's overlap. But let's clarify things so that we're on the same page about terms that we're going to use in this presentation. So industry is the group of producers of a given service or product. There are often a common set of rules that govern an industry, and often all members of an industry feel similar impacts from the economy or from other external factors. Market, however, which is the prime topic that we'll be talking about today, is the place where buyers and sellers connect. So everybody has been to a market, right? And I should say too, industry is more of an abstract concept. Market, you can usually draw a line around where a market exists. Everybody's been to a farmer's market. But the important thing here is that the market is where we understand market demand, we understand what customers prefer, and which products or services meet their needs. A lot of time, market research is sort of a catch-all for industry research and market research. It's understandable. There are a lot of elements of industry research that help market research. But our focus today is going to be primarily market research. Every once in a while, I'll refer to industry, and now hopefully you all will understand why I'm talking about industry versus market. Great, so here's the big picture. Remember, I referred to the big picture here. This is how everything is going to be fitting together. And no need to remember the details yet. In fact, don't worry about the details at all. The important point is that this methodology here, Lean Startup, which is from Eric Ries, you can look up his book. It's very, very interesting. The main idea with Lean Startup as a methodology is that you're constantly in a cycle of learning and testing small ideas, kind of small adjustments or small hypotheses you have in the market to get input, and then starting the process again of learning. The important point with this philosophy is that it is a constant and iterative process. It's never going to be perfect. You're never done. In fact, good entrepreneurs, good business owners never stop innovating and learning from their customer. That's how you stay competitive. So this is a kind of a core idea to keep in mind as we're talking today. And where we're focused is on the data and learn piece. We'll talk about the rest on day 2 of our workshop, but the idea here is to work smarter, not harder. Obviously, entrepreneurs need to work hard and business owners need to work hard. What I'm talking about is making sure that time and money you do spend working is time and money well spent. So work smarter. Embrace curiosity, not fear. Often something even as intimidating as market research and evaluation can sort of stimulate fear. Like, oh gosh, I hope I do it right. I hope I get the right answer. Let's focus instead on curiosity. Just wonder about things and don't worry about just getting started. And finally, prioritize speed and not perfection. I can't emphasize this enough. A great question earlier was about how this can be used in a time of economic stress. I think the most successful entrepreneurs and business owners are going to move fast. They're not going to have the perfect answer, but they're going to have the first answer. So I really encourage you to think about how you can use these tools quickly and prioritize, instead of getting the perfect answer, just getting an answer and moving forward to refine that answer or find the next answer. You'll understand more what I mean, but the important thing is work smart, embrace curiosity, and prioritize speed. And this is actually a quote that I have sitting on my desk, looking at it right now. Let urgency conquer fear, period, full stop. When you hesitate, just think to yourself, let urgency be what guides me in this moment. And that's a great quote from Gene Case's book, Be Fearless, which you can also check out. A wonderful guide on being an impactful entrepreneur. All right. So if there's any time to really start focusing, it's right now. We're about to dive into a lot of good stuff, and all of that good stuff is going to be quick and easy to do as long as you've paid attention and also have these slides in your hand, which you will after this workshop. So the 3 main components of market research and evaluation are understanding what your business is, defining your market and estimating your market size, and framing the competition. That's it. That's at least the basics. Once you can get started on those, you've let urgency conquer fear, and you are rolling. And then a bonus element that we'll talk about briefly at the end is identifying key issues or trends affecting your market or industry. So there's some sub-steps here. I won't read them through them now. Actually, you know what? I'm going to briefly read through them to make sure that I've at least primed the idea before we dive into it. So for understanding what your business is, we're going to talk about how to articulate your product or service idea, identify the 3 characteristics of your product or service that make it unique, and then defining your industries. See, that word popped up, industry, and this is where it's relevant, and we'll get to why it is. Next, defining your market and estimating your market size. We're going to define your primary customer, and we're going to estimate your market size. And then finally, framing the competition, identify your top 3 competitors, and do a high-level evaluation of each competitor. All of this may sound like a lot of work. 1 hour. 1 hour is how long it should take you once you have this instruction here. And this instruction will help you fill out your assignment. No need to scribble this down now. We'll have this at the end. You'll have these slides at the end, so you'll be able to use that link. But that's where you go to download your assignment. And once again, if you spend 1 hour, no more, 1 hour filling it out what you can, just finishing whatever you can, and if you send it to me by Monday, June 29 at 11:59 p.m., so by midnight, by the end of the day, you'll get a chance to win 3 free hours of consulting or coaching. And so that time we can use however you like to help move your business idea along. Great, so we're diving right in. Can't emphasize enough. Get ready to focus. We're just gonna run through this. When you start the process, you need to articulate your product or service idea. And these are the 3 things you need to do. Say, we offer blank or plan to offer blank to whoever your customer is so that they state how their life will be different because of your product or service. All right. This is an exact screenshot from the assignment. So this is precisely what you need to get started. And in order to clarify this, well, let me read through these quickly so everyone's on the same page. Once again, the first line, you're going to fill in your product or service. Second line, you're going to state who your customers are, being as specific as possible to include where they are geographically located. It's also okay to have multiple customer groups. Next, you're going to state how your customers' lives will be different because of your product or service. This is where you should be thinking about what problem you're solving. Now, some of you may have already done this as you've started your business. Some of you may have it in your head, but I can't emphasize enough how important it is to write it down. Writing it down really helps move you along through this process. Now, to make it tangible, we're going to follow throughout this entire process today a catering example. Catering is actually one of the most frequent new businesses started, I think nationally, if not also in the DC area, and also very recently on a call I was on, somebody mentioned they wanted to start a catering business. So it was lodged in my brain, and I thought it might be nice to walk through this. So we're gonna, oh, and I should also say, if anybody's on the line and they have a catering idea, you're welcome to still obviously fill in the assignment. I'd love it if you fill in the assignment, but I'm gonna expect more from you since obviously we've already done some of your work here together. Now, in this case, an okay example of how to articulate your product or service idea. Now this is okay. You say, we plan to offer catering to people in Washington, DC, so that they have food at their events. That's completely adequate. It meets the mark. But let me show you what I love to see. We offer delicious and affordable Caribbean and South American style catering so that primarily younger couples getting married in Washington, DC, in the Washington, DC area, don't have to, who don't have a lot to spend on catering, right? That's who they are. So that they feel joyful and not stressed about hosting as many friends and family as possible at their wedding receptions, and feel proud of offering good, nutritious, and heartwarming meals to their guests. That is wonderful. And it's wonderful in part because there's more words used, right? We've been more descriptive in general. This is about 10 words here. Now we're up to 30 or 50 words. And we've been specific about who the customer is. And we've, I think more importantly than anything, we've taken a moment to walk in their shoes, right? That last row, we've tried to embody what their experience is and tried to be empathetic and feel what their experience is. So they're kind of intangible problems or tangible problems, we can understand them now. Second sub-step of understanding what your business is. You want to identify the 3 characteristics of your product or service that make it unique. Now, this is just about you reflecting on your product or service and quickly, right, emphasizing speed, not hesitation, quickly jot down what 3 characteristics you think make it unique. It may eventually be a competitive advantage, and it may not, but that's okay. We're starting here, and we're just going to write down 3 characteristics. Price and quality are often good characteristics of a product or service. But in this stage, if you haven't really done the numbers on pricing, I'd say don't worry about price quite yet, but think about the other characteristics that you think make it unique. Let me give you the example. If we continue with the catering business, I wrote down, and this took me 2 minutes. Characteristic number 1, Caribbean and South American style food. Characteristic number 2, you know what? I remember that when my sister got married and she had a catering service cancel last minute, she needed a caterer quickly. So she had to quickly get a caterer ordered. So I think it'd be a great characteristic if we had it so that you can order it within 24 hours for up to 100 people. And then finally, you know, my friend who I've partnered with on this business idea, he's actually a famous chef. So I think that's another unique characteristic. That's awesome. And you've now finished this step in the process. Now, this last third sub-step in understanding what your business is defining your industries. Now, I've framed this entire presentation as not an MBA course, and the minute we start talking about industry classification codes, which is what we're going to talk about in a second, it can sound a little dry and intimidating, but I assure you this is easy and it's also important. So what is an NIICS? An NIICS is a North American Industry Classification System code. This is essentially just a standard hierarchical system by which industries are defined so that kind of a lot of economic reports and things like that can fall into clear industry lines. Now, I've mentioned that this is important, so let me show you how, and it's also easy, so I'll show you how easy it is. I've already brought up the page for this link, and it should be on your screen right now. This is that page. You can read so much more about NIICS if you like, but check this out. I'm going to type in catering up here in the upper left-hand corner. I click search, and I'm done. That was about 30 seconds, and I found my NIICS. If we want to click on one of these are the same code with just different names. If we wanted to click on one of these, you could see what is behind it. And once again, it just defines what caterers are from an industry perspective. There are some cross-reference codes, all of this stuff. You can spend time researching if you like, but guess what? We've met the mark. We have found our NIICS code, and we are done with that step. Boom, 722-320. And we get to move on. We get to move on to our next step, and we are T-minus 13 minutes, so I'm gonna be mindful of the time. We may not get through all 3 major steps. That's okay. We'll be able to talk about anything that we don't get around to today on Tuesday. But once again, if there are questions, feel free to interrupt me. And I saw a question come through, but I can ask it answer that at the end. So let's move on to step 2, defining the customer and estimating market size. The important first step in this bucket is defining your primary customer. I encourage you to think about just one of your customer groups. Remember that exercise we did earlier? You may have listed several customer groups. Let's just think about the one that we're primarily targeting. And here's where I want to encourage you as best you can to be imaginative. There's some information you may already know for sure about your target customer, but you want to really start painting the picture of who they are. So the way we do that is with, once again, the exact screenshot from your assignment. You're going to state who your primary customer is, being as specific as possible. You're going to state the problem that your product or service solves. You want to articulate the exact problem as best you can that your primary customer experiences. The more specific, the better. Finally, some characteristics or qualities of our primary customers. This is where I want you to be really creative. Just think about who they are as a person. Think about what some of their habits are. Think about some of maybe even their personality. Obviously, you know, you want to be as empathetic and caring as possible, because this is a customer that you really want to understand. Because it's a customer that you want to help with one of their problems that they're experiencing. So when I filled this out for my hypothetical catering business, I wrote that our primary customer is young couples living in Washington, D.C., who are getting married for the first time, have lots of friends and family, and don't have a lot of money to spend on their wedding. See, I've already listed some characteristics there. I've already gotten ahead of myself, but that's okay. I got into it. The problem that our product or service solves is that, you know, these couples are stressed out about paying for their wedding and providing for a wonderful and memorable experience for all of their guests. They're frustrated by all of the many catering options to sort through, and are worried they'll have to take out a loan, or maybe even not invite some of their loved ones to the wedding. So when I think about my customer, I'm trying to imagine, I'm trying to be in their shoes as best I can, just understanding that in some cases I may not be right, but I'm going to explore more, right? I'm going to be curious. So I'm thinking that these couples are young, maybe they're first or second generation immigrants and prioritize friends and family above all else. Family units are large, and second and third cousins are considered close family members. These couples are working in the service industry themselves, either as drivers, caregivers, or grocery workers. This is, you know, once again, you may not know this for sure yet, but this is a start to open up curiosity, right? This is what we want to learn more about. And some of these dimensions of your customer may be very important to how you design your product or service and how you market. So we're getting some of that work done early. Okay, so now we want to estimate our market size. This is the second step in this bucket of defining the customer and estimating market size. Now, this is a numbers thing. And I know a lot of people, if you're like me, you know, numbers can at least cause a little bit of hesitation, right? But I want to encourage everyone who's here in this session with me to see this as fun, right? We're getting an estimate. We're okay if it's a really, really wide range, and we're going to be setting a range, a low end and a high end. But this is our way of just getting into the numbers, just starting the process of learning about our customer from a numbers perspective. How many are there, and how much do I think they spend on this product or service every year? And the good news is, as I promised, there's an easy way to do this. The easy way is, and this is something I recently discovered, and this is once again a big secret to market research and evaluation. One great source is what's called the U.S. Census Business Builder. I'm going to pull up the page in a second, but the Census Business Builder pulls information from Census, as well as what's called American Community Survey, which is just an annual, census is every 10 years, sort of a deep count of every American. And American Community Survey just happens every year and is sort of a way to just scan for what's out there, what sort of economic and social factors there are that are affecting Americans. And let me pull up that page so I can show you just how easy it is to learn about your market and estimate your market size. I need to remind myself what the code is for 722320. You'll see why I do that in a second. You're going to pull up this page here, the Census Business Builder. There's a few different versions. I'm familiar with the Small Business Edition. There might be some cool stuff in the Regional Analyst Edition, but let's click on the Small Business Edition. And we're gonna put in our, your NIICS code. And we've got that because we did the work already. 722320, it It should pop up. It does, which is awesome. And we are going to put in District of Columbia because this is where we're focused geographically. And we're going to create a report. Now check this out. This is amazing. And this will be the last thing I show. And then I think we're going to have to go to Q&A since we're running low on time, which is okay. But you have a full report on demographics, all about your target geography. You see the total population. You see how that's changed over different periods of time. You see median household income. All of these factors, which are really important to start learning about your customer and understanding how you can make a guess at how big your market is from a number of individuals' perspective, as well as how much you think they spend on your product or service. And let me point out this. These are the number of, essentially the size of your competition. There are 60 employer establishments that are considered catering businesses. So right here, you've already got to start to your competitive research, and you've done it in about 45 seconds. So I'm going to go now back to my slides, really quickly show you what my market estimate was. This is what you'll find in your assignment, and you're going to put in some numbers based on, let's say I read through that Census Business Builder, and I figure, okay, on the low end, I think 50 couples per year are in my market. On the high end, maybe 500. And I think on the low end, they spend $2,500 to cater their event, maybe even less. And on the high end, let's say 10,000. So now I have an estimate of market size. And this is so critical just to start gauging how big that market is. How much money how much cash flow can I actually get if I start a business in this market? And you'll get that through this first step in the process. All right, so we are T-minus 4 minutes. I'm going to quickly show you what we missed today so that you come back on Tuesday. We're going to talk about framing the competition. Yes, that's a lot of good stuff. And it's stuff that you absolutely need to learn to do this right. But for the sake of your assignment, I'll leave this on the screen for a moment. But go ahead to that link, download your assignment, complete your assignment. Obviously, you can only finish the first 2 buckets, and that's fine. If you get through to the 3rd bucket of framing your competition, I welcome you to give that a shot. But since we only got through the first 2 buckets, it's totally understandable if you only get through those 2. And send it back to me by Monday, June 29 at 11:59 p.m. All of this information is on the assignment as well. And we will choose one person out of whoever sends us their assignment by that time to get 3 free hours of consulting or coaching. Let me pause for just a second. Greta, how do you think we're doing? Do you want me to try to answer some of these questions? I know I ran.
Definitely, if you don't mind. I know you have access to the Q&A. I don't know if you need me to read it out or if you're willing to do it and just respond.
Yeah, absolutely. I see it on my screen right now. So I'll go through the questions.
Okay.
And if I mispronounce names, please do forgive me. Ronnie or Rainey asked, how is Caribbean and South American food unique? I think it's a couple things. Number one, in that stage of the process, you just want to put down whatever you think is unique, right? It doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to even be correct, but you're thinking about your product or service at a very early stage, and you just want to put down what's unique. I think in this case, Caribbean and South American food is very unique. Just in my brief search on catering services, you've got Italian, you've got American, you've got a lot of variety. So that's how I think.
But it also depends on the market in which you're in. Like if you're in a certain neighborhood and there are no Caribbean and South American foods, then that makes it unique to that community in that area.
Yeah, and the main point that I want to get across though is that when you're this early in market research and evaluation, it's okay to put whatever you think is unique. You don't have to be certain it's unique yet, if that makes sense. Okay, so next question. again, forgive me for mispronouncing Darnaris, I think. So I just tried searching for life coach in the NIICS database. Doesn't exist. Does this mean that the market and evaluation process won't work for me? No, it doesn't mean the process is over for you. I'd be happy to, there's probably a different NIICS in there. Maybe try typing in coach or executive consultant. Often there's a lot of sub definitions. So just play around a little bit, put in some other search terms, and you'll be able to find the NIICS, or at least a few that relate. And that's really the point. It doesn't have to be perfect. Find a few that relate. It seems a bit more cumbersome to find the exact NIICS code. Do you recommend selecting a couple? Perfect question from Jewel. Yes, that's exactly right. You can find a few that are relevant. I'd recommend keeping it to 3 or fewer. If you end up using 5, you probably need to define your idea a little bit more specifically. Great. What do you think, Greta? I can keep going. I know we still have 30-some people.
Do we have more slides to cover?
So we have, I'll just put this last slide up.
Well, Damaris just asked, she's going a little deeper, saying, sorry for the confusion, but my question is about broad geographical basis, not limited to a city or state. My business is being designed to reach people irrespective of geographical area. Hope that makes sense.
Got it. Yes, the answer is, if I think I understand your question now. And the quick answer is, the most important thing is, who is your customer and how specifically can you define them? If geography is not an important distinction, then it doesn't matter. But there are other characteristics that do matter. Geography is usually one thing that's important. And geography obviously is not always where you're located, but it may be the language you speak. Some businesses may not be able to access the population of China, for example, because there's a language barrier. So that's the point of articulating the geography dimension as best you can. Wonderful. So everyone who's still sticking around, I'm sorry that we'll have to drop now, and it's just a matter of, everybody's got to go on to the next step in their day. But I've got the next steps up on the screen for you all. I put this URL in the chat. That is where you can download your assignments. Feel free to focus only on the first 2 buckets that we spoke about today. If you want to give a shot to framing the competition, go for it, but limit yourself to 1 hour only. Send the completed assignment, or as much as you can complete, to me. You got my email address there.
Yeah, you'll get an automatic reminder coming closer to date, which is on Tuesday. The login information should be identical to the one that you have now, or the one that you utilized today. So there shouldn't be any questions or doubt about that.
Cool. Thanks, Greta, and thank you. Thanks everyone for joining, and thanks to our partners for helping out.
Jewel said, this is awesome material and presentation. Thanks, GWHCC and Greg. Tarsha says, thank you. All right, everyone, have a great day. Take care.
Bueno, ciao.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao.